What's up, everybody? We are live with Dee Deng, who was kind enough to stay up late to hop on for this. He is in Australia. I am in Paris. So, Dee, thank you for staying up to pop on with us today.
No problem. Comment ça va, monsieur?
It's like the best time to be here because they just won their match in the World Cup. So like,
oh shit, that's unreal.
I'm at my friend's law firm, and like basically they just shut it down, and we're like, yo, let's watch the football. So
That's awesome.
let's talk e-commerce. Let's crack right into it. Give me a little bit of background between you and Scott and what you were doing before Right Hook and how this whole thing came together for you guys.
Oh man, it's crazy too because we just celebrated our first anniversary on Tuesday, so it's super timely stuff. So prior to, I had a tech startup 5 years ago. That was really my first path into teaching myself all of this stuff. I was bartending before that and working at like a camera store. But really owning a tech startup was the thing that trial by fire, right? It was all bootstrapped. You really got to learn how to stretch every single dollar. So that immersed me like all the way up to here with just trying to figure this shit out. And I come from a TV and film background. So that was constantly always on the constantly understanding storytelling, understanding production and stuff like that. Scott and I met, fast forward to last year, Scott and I met on a Facebook forum, on a Facebook group. We started chatting a little. Yeah. We were just chatting on a thing, and I was like, oh, I'm over in Brisbane. He goes, oh, you got an American accent. I thought you were over in the US. And he goes, I'm on the Gold Coast. So we just met for Korean fried chicken. I drove down, met him. Wow. Did a fist bump, started, just tiptoeing a little bit. We've had a few ventures. He's had a few ventures, kind of cautious about jumping back into co-founding again. And thought, you know what, let's just close one client, see if that sticks. Let's not incorporate. Let's just close the client, work together, get some cash, see how that works. And then that same client, it's funny, I just sent them like a thanks email for sticking around. That same client's been with us the whole time. So
wow, that says a lot. That really says a lot about agency stuff. Like if you're keeping clients, there's never anything better than that. Yeah, it's noticeable about your background with TV and stuff. You're very photogenic. You understand how to make it pop. And you guys are obviously very creative based. Like I can just see that in all of your materials and stuff. With what you're doing right now for your agency stuff, explain like what kind of e-com stuff you're doing and kind of how it works out when you bring on a new client. How do you get started with them? What does the onboarding look like? Let's just go from there.
Sick. I love talking about this shit. So we primarily work with a really large range, like from low ticket to high ticket. We stay in our lane with e-commerce. We do treat it like a bit of a 360 solution, though. So as much as you look at our presence, front and center is always about Facebook, always about like the sexy stuff, right? But once you get pulled in and once you start talking to us, we ask you actually a whole bunch of questions around what's your email marketing doing? Are you doing any kind of CRO? Like all those touch points, because you might be looking at the CPA on the front end and might be looking on the AOV there. But if you got LTV and we can push that, then it becomes so much more powerful. Then we don't have to just stare at that CPA. And, sometimes if you got a client with thin margins and they go like, listen, we can't make this viable. You guys got to make it 8x return on ad spend at the minimum, or else we're not taking you on. I'm like, fuck that. It's a really hard gig. So our onboarding is, we just did a complete 180 on the onboarding. So we used to say yes to, do a bit of an audit, jump on a call, discover what's going on, get them on, signed on, and then off we go. We completely did a 180 on that. And we can geek out about that in Barcelona too. But the way that we do it now is we actually do a paid audit. So it's just it's a foot in the door, do a paid audit, not only just Facebook, but Facebook GA, conversion rate. Let's look at your email marketing. We'll do a sneaky little like, hopefully no clients are watching because I want to surprise you, but we'll sneakily buy your shit too and see how quickly it shows up. I want to see like what type of emails are you sending after the fact, and I'll try to we'll use a few emails to abandon your cart, see what you're doing there, see if you follow us around, you're retargeting. So once we know all that, by the time we get to the finishing the audit, one, we've built a lot of trust with you because we're giving you the full thing. If you want to walk away and go to another agency, we got the full thing. But just know that we came up with the full thing, so let's work together on this. So it builds a lot of trust on the front. That gets me really excited.
This is a great way to do it, man. And anybody out here who's doing agency stuff, e-com or lead gen, The audit idea is fantastic because it creates a little barrier to entry. It gets rid of the bullshit people that aren't ready to spend money. It gets rid of the tire kickers, as we call it in phone sales, and then it gives you guys access to really see what's going on and see if you can make something happen. I got a bunch of questions off this. Let me jump with the first one. You ever do audits of clients and then you're just like, yo, I can't help you. We can't do this?
Just did one last week.
Yeah, man.
And let me jump in real quick too. On top of all the different benefits that you got. So we got Davis. He's now our inbound client partnerships guy. Doing that audit doubled his conversion rate straight up.
Wow.
Doubled it straight up because it's a foot in the door. We're no longer talking about 3 months, 6 months. What can you do for me? Am I going to hemorrhage money? Test phase? What's all this shit? We need to do the audit. Do that. And then off of the audit so far, close rate, unless we disqualify them, knock on wood, so far 100% close rate after the audit to client.
Wow. So that's good. So you close them on the audit, which also obviously is cheaper ticket. You build the trust, and then of course they're going to roll with you if they like the audit.
Yes, sir.
Do you guys, so you said you audited and you looked at their email and their CRO and everything else. Are you full service on that end as an agency, or do you just do media? Do you just do creatives, or is it everything?
So creatives from a production standpoint is them for now. I'm trying to scratch my head to figure out how we can craft out right hook studios, so to speak, so that we can do a bit of that stuff. Sometimes it's tough because if it's bulky stuff and we've got US clients because we work international, if we've got US clients, they have to ship it over to us and it's a bit tough. But if it's stuff like, taking some of their video and putting it into After Effects and doing some cool shit, or using stuff like Shaker, which we love using, then that part we can take on. We got James in-house for that, our own James. It seems like James's are just ballers. But
shit.
Yeah, shit. And then we look at the email side too. So what I like to say to most clients is we like the nail it and scale it model. So let's nail something, let's bring you up to speed, reinvest those profits then into some of the other areas if you want to flesh shit out. Because again, I mean, I watched the other 2 Facebook Lives, and the last thing we want, you guys were talking about not being a one-legged horse, right? Like if you're relying on Facebook and if Facebook gives you that, then you're kind of fucked.
It's really, I mean, they say it every year when it gets messed up, but this year it's like really, I think, rang home for a lot of people that Facebook is not necessarily that reliable partner. But I also think, though, like, the people that I've seen doing e-com, and I'll ask you, but the people I see doing e-com for legit brands, agency style, et cetera, it doesn't seem like there's as much account ban problems. How has it been for you guys recently?
No problems, no account bans. We had one client in the apparel space that was themed for like the military. So he got smacked with the whole, like, you're running political ads thing. And we've been trying to, talk to reps about that. 50% of reps are saying we don't see what the problem is. There is no political stuff here. The other 50% are saying there is some political stuff here. You got to apply for that. So right now, like every time we open the ad account up the top, it just says, please verify your account to run these political ads. So it's still an ongoing thing, but no bans, just because a lot of these guys are trying to build their brands. If anything, it might just be low customer satisfaction score, especially for the more newbie brands that don't really pay attention to, they haven't sorted out their shipping, or they don't have someone dedicated sitting there answering customer support. But not a lot of bans did.
You got to kind of like break it before you make it sometimes with e-com. I've seen this like so many times now where guys are heavy on the media side. Even also when we were running drop shipping, when we started, it's like you finally get a winner on the media side and you're like, yo, let's scale the shit out of this thing. And then you scale it and then you blow up your support. You blow up your PayPal, you blow up your Stripe, you blow up your customer service. And then you're like, okay, well, now we know what happens when we do that, so let's not do that again.
Yeah, exactly. I like that strategy, though, man.
You have to. Sometimes, to make an omelet, you got to break some eggs.
Yeah, totally.
Do you now, when do you allow clients to handle their own web assets? Like, do you ever run into a situation where you're running traffic to them and their store just sucks, but they're married to that store? Like, how do you handle that?
That's why we love the audit. Right, because right smack in there, we go in there and we go, what is your existing conversion rate? Are you running Hotjar, Crazy Egg, or Lucky Orange, or any of those ones? We need to get a peek in there, and then following that also is it's so. For example, if you go in there and I'm on a discovery call with you and you're telling me good numbers, because obviously you're trying to, beat your chest and tell me good shit. I look in there and I'm like, okay, you might be spending 50, 100K a month in ad spend, but you're at a 0.5 CVR. I'm going to go, whoa, there might be a few things. I know you want to go to the Olympics, but your knee's kind of fucked. So let's fix your knee first before you go for that sprint.
Yeah, that's exactly, that's a good pitch. You use the knee thing too. Like in sales, everybody always like, oh, what's the price? What's the price? I was always like, listen, I don't need if you need a Band-Aid or brain surgery. I don't know until I check it out and do that audit on your file.
Yes, sir.
What do you think your guys' strength is? Like out of all the things that you do, where would you say you guys are the strongest, or what do you think is the most powerful lever right now to make e-com work on Facebook?
So in terms of us internally, I'd say we're really fucking, we're really fucking, compared to most agencies, we're really fucking strong on process. Like we've got everything down to like a marching order, step A, step B, step C, and step C1, C2, C3 of these things happen. That's what we're really, really good at. And also really understanding media buy versus creative, or media buy versus branding. We go in there with really that type of nature, because inevitably, if you're trying to sell shit online, you go top funnel retargeting and then something in the middle, perhaps. If you keep pushing, and we found this too, right? If you keep pushing up the top of the funnel, just product images, or keeping it really stale up there, it just ain't gonna work as well, as opposed to understanding, hey, here's some creative that we can test up the top. Video views. I know you're a big fan of video views and stuff like that. We do that type of stuff too, and are able to move that down. So I think approaching it and with that type of mindset, what we're good at. And then internally, we've got, because we got a media buy team and we've got people in creative as well. And then with my background in Scott's, we really get to try to 360 the whole thing.
Got it. Yeah, it's actually, you mentioned video views. Right now, I built a case study account to prepare, it's kind of ballsy, but to prepare for my presentation in Barcelona, where I was like, it'd be very cool if I had a living case study on this thing if it doesn't fail.
We're doing the same thing, dude.
So I'm basically building the plane while I'm flying. And what's been interesting is I am having a lower cost per acquisition remarketing video views than I am actual website visitors. So that my whole little video view thing, it's been working nice. I think it's when I take the screen share videos that are 3-4 minutes where people are showing what they're doing with their stats and stuff, people that watch 75% of that, they're in the game. If you're not scared away by the dashboard, if you're into seeing inside someone's ad account, then you're my guy, and so far that's been working for us. Let's talk about DPA ads. I know that's something you guys are going to hit. I think it's something a lot of people don't use. I think people know about it for retargeting. Can you explain DPA ads? And then when you're done with that, let's talk about DPA at the top of the funnel.
Yeah, awesome. So DPA, for those that aren't familiar with it, it's pretty much dynamic product ads. You're pretty much pulling, using the product catalog on Facebook to then start being able to display contextually to the Facebook user, whether it is them going to view a product on the website and they don't do any action with it, you can then show them that exact product. If they abandon cart, same kind of deal. So what you can then do also is start getting a bit creative with that DPA too. It does not have to necessarily be just for the retargeting. We can then push it up to the top of the funnel too and actually show them just a range of, the collection of products that our clients might have.
So basically, so I can understand, right? So let's pretend, as far as application, let's pretend I had a general store and I had 10 different types of products. Could I potentially test my products via DPA?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
And then what kind of money do you need to put out when you're, let's say you're at top of funnel? Everybody's always asking the same shit, right? Everyone always says, how much money do we need to use? What does it cost to test? It's actually some of the questions that have popped in here. When you're running DPA, how much do you put it on the top of a funnel to see how the creatives are going to respond or the product responds to test something out? Let's say you got a $40 AOV.
Right. So essentially, and it's a bit tougher for us too, because we're kind of handcuffed to the client, the amount that the client gives us, obviously from an ad spend perspective, right? Sure. So it's not like something that's completely in our control. So even if we're running those tests, we then have to kind of pitch it over to the client, let them know, hey, we're going to run these tests alongside some of the stuff that's already working, possibly, to see if it works better. Generally, just from zooming up a bit wider, generally what we do is from a funnel step standpoint, 70% we allocate to top of funnel. And then down the line, we've got, 15% usually around that bottom of funnel stuff. And then we even do like a post-sale thank you video at the very bottom too, might allocate like 5% there. So it's like literally no call to action. And I know I'm moving away from DPA a bit, but you raise your eyebrows. So I'll talk about that a little bit. It literally is no call to action. You bought something. The founder or the face of the company jumps on video to go, hey, thanks for buying your stuff. It's going to get to you in this amount of time. No hard sales whatsoever. And they can still click to kind of go through to the website if they want.
That's great.
Yeah, so we run that too. And Scott and I, we can share a bit of that stuff as well in Barcelona. But so top of funnel with the broad DPAs, effectively what we're doing is depending on, and I know that it might sound like a cop out, but depending on where the client's at with the budgets, then we have to do the split percentage wise accordingly. But we look at it from a percentage standpoint rather than a price point standpoint, just because we have to pitch it to the client and get the okay.
Yeah, that is definitely always a handcuff, is client budget and whatnot. Let's talk more about this. Thank you. After purchase.
Hey, nice.
I want to put this up on the live stream itself. So, what made you start doing this, and what effect have you seen it had on customer satisfaction, reduction of chargebacks, and stuff like this?
So, is it just me or the stream hanging? Oh, okay, cool. Sorry, I just jumped onto the thing as well. Hey, Scott's on there? Nice. Good old Scott's leaving comments too. So here's what's really interesting. That post sale, and actually, I'll make a note. Scott, let's make a note to take a screenshot of that. That post sale actually did. It makes sales too.
Sure.
For some, right? It makes sales as well. Sure. But what it allows us to do also is it gives us the versatility to actually, one, keep that customer satisfaction score really high. Like literally we're getting 5s. We don't have a single client that's like 2. We never hit a 2 ever.
Wow.
That's super good that way. But it allows us to have the versatility to go post sale, do this, leave a review. Post sale, do that, and so softer calls to action. Nothing about buying back, but do something for us, or come join our group, because some of our clients have a separate group just to game organic. Back up again.
This is really solid, man. Any of you guys out there doing e-com or drop shipping, whatever, this is a tip that I haven't heard before. It makes so much sense. I'm sure it works. And like you said, it still makes sales. It probably even helps later on the retargeting. Like it puts the brand deeper in someone's head, especially when you're talking to them personally. And especially now with this customer service stuff. Like obviously, if you've got the bad customer reviews, you're gonna get the higher CPMs. So I'm sure whatever cost it is to run these videos offsets that quite a bit. I got
no one else is doing it.
No, I've never heard of it before. Never heard.
Exactly. So imagine if you're going through a shopping experience. How many brands actually, once after you've bought something, they're spending dollars to market to you immediately after you bought something. So it's a really nice little touch point to be like, hey, shit, this is kind of cool. And you can get funny with it, you can get creative with it, you can do so much with it.
Yeah, I love this idea, honestly. On the store side, are you guys usually using Shopify or Magento? Are you using
Oh God, Magento.
Are you using like pre-sell? How did your web assets look like that you're driving traffic?
Right. So for the most part, we get shafted with whatever the clients come to us with. So if they're on Shopify, we deal with Shopify. And what I like about it, as much as it might be, what's the word to use? As much as it might sound like a hassle, it really forces you to learn really quick. Because I remember our first Magento client, I was like, what the fuck is this thing?
Really?
It's so ugly on the back end. It's very enterprise. Everything has to be compliant, security, all that other stuff. To get the pixel in there, their developer took 3 weeks.
Wow, that's shitty. Fucking pixels. Like I've had such on pixels. It's unbelievable. It's such a simple thing, but it really messes things up all the time. Let's answer some questions here first off, because this is a really good question as well. What is your objective on the post-sale sequence?
Hey, Nick, so do me a favor. Actually, James, do you think it's an actual like objective, or Facebook technically the objective we got in there?
No, I'm saying like, is it video views? Is it conversion? Is it website clicks?
Right, got it. Correct me if I'm wrong, Scott. I know you're still on here, but I'm pretty sure that it's video views. But it wouldn't be conversions off the top of my head, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't know, let's just have Scott put it in the chat. It's all good.
Yeah.
Someone else asked, how would you take a $100 tech product from 0 sales and 0 traffic to 100K a month in sales? That's like a ridiculous question, but yeah, it's just too hard to answer something like that, guys. It's too broad.
There we go. Scott just replied reach.
Reach objective. Okay, that makes sense. Anything for impressions, 3 days. Yeah, that makes sense. Here where it says we really need good existing pixel data too for top of funnel DPAs to work well. What does that mean? You know, like, is it specific to the niche? Like when you're running e-com and you're running, let's go back to DPA. You're running DPA. Obviously, you're doing yoga pants and you got like 10 different types of yoga pants. I could see how DPA would work. If you're running a general store and you got like different products for different audiences, will it still work?
See, and that's the thing too. I can't. It's hard for me to comment on that just because we hardly almost ever work with dropship stores. Sure. That whole very wide range in a general store, we have very little experience in that kind of realm. Just because it's such a different pressure point, such a different like working model too.
Totally. Do you guys ever use pre-sales before the store to warm things up, or do you run them right to the product page?
Usually right to the product page. We're fairly discretionary with that depending on the type of product. If it's a problem-solving thing, then we might have to do a pre-sale in there. We got one client that is kind of a cool little widget, really. It's pretty much a golf GPS, right? Where you clip it onto your hat, you click the button, you're on a golf course, they smack it, and you can kind of tells you how far away the hole is and shit like that. You can't really drive people straight to the product page because you got to know what the fuck it is in the first place. Like if you look at, you got to educate, because if you look at it, like the photo, it just looks like something like that, and this is just a little battery pack, but you can't really tell what it is on the ad. Right. So we do have to pre-inform and educate and kind of do some sales and info copy there before we drive them somewhere else. So those are the types of different things we test. Okay. And then with the brands that you run with, are you the one that's coming to them? We'll use this golf thing, for example. Now, are you the one that comes to them with ideas for upsells, or is it more like them that are like, hey, this goes nicely with this? It really goes both ways. It has to. So we have to go in there and kind of give them upsells. It's tougher. We try to recommend as much as we can, even on the discounting side. So for win-back sequences or for abandonment sequences, stuff like that, we might suggest discounts. But for some of these brands, they are the product innovators. They're not necessarily the marketing mind type people. So sometimes we get like a really knee-jerk reaction. Whoa, I'm not a discount kind of brand. Because they're thinking that once you put an ad up on Facebook, everyone in the world sees it. Forgetting that if it's retargeting, it's very contextual. So there is a bit of client education that we got to do on our side too. That makes sense. I see here, my TK's is view content with TK's message. I don't know what that is. Thanks. My thanks is view content with a thanks message, I think. Okay. Targeting for reach. Try and cap frequency around 3 to 5 max. We'll share the exact setup we use in our presentation. Are you guys ever using image ads, or is it all video, or what does that kind of look like? We mix it up. Like creative is a very hard It's like asking a client, hey, can we pull out your molars? Sometimes it's just, we don't know how, we don't know what. Should we do this? Should we do that? So as much as possible, we try to go in there and do a creative onboarding call with them as well. So we typically say, give us as many variants as possible, as dramatically different as possible. Got it. So that way we can have the portrait versus square, stills versus a GIF style versus whatever. And then based off of the base creative asset that they give us, we can then kind of mishmash it accordingly using something like a shaker or whatever else it might be. But we do test static plus video. and it really differs brand to brand.
The where you're advertising, what geos?
That really depends on the client. So for example, North American clients, it'd be, you know, within North America. We've got some international shipping clients, so we do that as well. And then for Australian clients, it'll be like Australia, New Zealand. You know, one of our clients right now, they've got Australia, Hong Kong. So it's 2 web assets, 2 ad accounts, 2 geographies. Ironically, the Hong Kong one they still want to sell it in English. So I guess they're selling the expats over there. It's not going to be in Cantonese or anything.
With the Australia thing, my history of traffic, whether it be lead gen or whether it be or ecom, Australians buy a lot of shit easy. Why is the conversion rate always so good in Australia? What's going on down there?
Dude, it's so Australians are really like, put it this way, one, it's just a huge fucking island, right? That's in the middle of nowhere, really. The closest countries are all Southeast Asian, right? So it's the only Western country in that place. So a lot of the trends coming out of the US, really, you can't sometimes get your hands on it until it reaches your shores. So if there's an offer, like if you manage to tap into the zeitgeist of something that's popping off in North America just because you live there or you have pals that live there, and you manage to be the first mover in Australia, wallets wide the fuck open. Because we're getting all of the press, all of the pop culture, all of the media from North America, but we can't get our hands on it. So the moment we can, it's there.
That makes sense.
Case in point is that whole the jewelry and the candle thing that popped off like maybe 2015, where you buy it for your fiance or whatever, you buy it for your mom, they burn the candle, and inside of it is a ring.
Yeah.
One in 5,000 or 1 in 1,000 is like a Tiffany's ring or something like that.
That's a good idea.
That popped off in 2013, and 2015 an Australian dude picked it up over here. No one had ever heard of it over here, so it popped off for him too, first mover. But it was, for him, it was old news.
Yeah, like proof of concept in the United States, then scale it out to another geo that hasn't seen it yet.
Yeah, totally.
Excuse me. Right now, are you guys focusing on, or when you're running traffic, do you spend more money now, do you think, on interest targeting or lookalikes? What does the audience stuff look like?
We leverage a lot of lookalikes as much as we can. Again, same kind of thing. Being handcuffed to a client means that if they have, for example, if you're on Shopify, you can pull the data out really easy, upload the custom audiences, and then you build lookalikes off of that. Sometimes if it's a WooCommerce kind of thing, it's really hard. If it's Magento, I don't even know how. Like it's like that Magento client admittedly didn't stick with us for very long. We ran into a whole ton of issues at the very start. We almost didn't get to even finish setting them up, and they just decided to take it in house or not even do meaningful Facebook ads. But Shopify, if it's Shopify, real easy. Then we try to leverage as much as possible custom audiences and as well as the lookalikes for sure.
Got it. Yeah.
If they're younger, then you have to do interest. You know what I mean? Because
sure.
You got to build the audiences.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the interest to lookalike, that time is like a very, like, I don't want to say stressful time, but like you know, or you can believe that if you're feeding the pixel well with the interest, you're going to end up with good lookalike. But it's so nice when someone just has lookalike to start with, so you can just start cracking like right away,
Yeah, for sure.
These days, are you guys running more manual or more automatic?
So that again comes in client to client. Like if we typically start off auto, and then once we need to control the CPA, and once we really want to start spending the serious amount of dough and bringing it up, then we want to be able to put the manual in there. We've got good old reveal bot as well, so that kind of helps with the control side of things. Ease off
everybody with reveal bot. Everybody with
those Russians, man. They've built some really good shit.
Yeah, dude, they're smart. And it's just everybody I've been talking to, e-com side, lead gen, that's who they've been using. I should actually probably have something sometime, do like a share your rules session where everybody puts up their reveal bot rules, because dudes are like so creative with how they are, using that stuff. Like just, the very small incremental growth of budget and turning off losers is one thing, but these guys are thinking of new, smart, crafty ways to make this thing, really regulate properly, you know?
Dude, I would love that. I would love that. That'd be super awesome.
What are you going to talk about in Barcelona?
So we've got a live case study going on, Scott and I. So we had this bright idea, I guess just a bit same like you, try to build this plane while we're flying, see how that goes. So we'll be talking about how we set up these broad DPAs, how we set up product feeds as well, and then we can talk about the retargeting side of things. And then if you want, we can throw in that thank you video stuff as well, so we can kind of talk about the creative.
For sure. How is the live case study going?
So a few accounts are going okay. A few other ones are a bit shaky. And it's just trying to build it out. Again, same kind of thing. Not being in full control of the levers and having the client there makes it tough. But that's the whole fun of the challenge in the first place. And I mean, Scott and I, we challenge ourselves all the time. And you see in our videos, like, I spit metrics like fucking crazy. I don't give a fuck. Like, I like being transparent because I don't know if you know this, in 2016, in the US, they did this one public kind of survey asking from a trust perspective, what type of occupations do you trust the most or the least? Right down at the very bottom, politicians. Underneath politicians, marketers.
No.
Yeah, man. Like, we got a bad rep. It's just how it is. So especially the last thing we want, and Scott and I talk about this a lot, is to be seen as some kind of hole in the wall, hillbilly agency out in Brisbane, Australia, in the middle of fucking nowhere. So that's why we always sort of share as much as we can. Win or lose, as long as we're sharing it, that's the whole point. We're learning stuff.
Totally. Transparency with any of this stuff is like the key for building trust. Like, I try to be really, as you know, like, I try to be really open book with my stuff. I've never been someone that tries to like hold back secrets and shit. And when you're sharing, then people trust you more than they share, and it has a nice, positive, cumulative, synergistic effect. So it's one thing I've always liked about you guys. Why I really even wanted to really have you guys on was you guys have always been great sharers. You've always been giving value without asking anything in return. So it's always just like a real plus.
Dude, it's full circle, man. Like, I don't know if you remember back when I sent you that Facebook message way back when like our entire team was huddled around the TV watching iStack and doing that presentation. It's big. We've always been big fans.
Dude, I actually was just looking through today for video material. Like, I'm in the process of optimizing my videos. Some's working, some's not working. Got a bunch of different types. My one retargeting campaign wasn't spending too well, so I was going through. I like testimonials for add to cart or like abandoned checkouts. So I was specifically putting together campaigns with this messaging, and I saw that picture of you guys at the team, like in the very beginning. You know what I'm saying? Like, you were like, "Oh, we're geeking out on this." Like, that's literally how we met. So it's very fun. It is full circle, man. Really, that was like a year ago.
Yeah,
like
that was
exactly a year.
No, I think it was start of the year, Scott. I think it was when we were over in we had a company retreat. We went over to the beach somewhere. It was probably in January when iStack went out. So start of this year. So we're just halfway into the year for us.
We got some questions here. I'm gonna take the first whack at this one, then I'll let you guys drop it. Always was curious, when you guys have so much talent and skills, why do you scale other people's businesses instead of building something on your own? I'll crack at it first because I do both. I mean, like, I've done some agency stuff, not a lot, but I will kind of compare it to, like, everybody thinks like, e-com or scaling your own business. Like, someone's still got to like make the product, deliver the product, and handle all the back end shit. And it sucks. And it's the same as when you sell leads to call centers. At the end of the day, they need to close the leads. So when you're, getting to scale someone else's business, you're also not having to deal with all the bullshit and headache, and you can just do your job. So that's my answer. Dee, what would you say to that?
I totally agree. There's this whole this is the sexy stuff, right? Like, talking about marketing and sales and creative, that's all the sexy stuff. Meanwhile, in the back is a fucking dude in a warehouse, ticking off, like, walking with a checkboard, all that type of stuff, projecting out finances. For Scott and I, a lot of this really, one, it's a really great learning platform because you get to get exposed to so many different brands. But then also, two, it really helps us, especially for us, build the war chest to then be able to explore other things. So in the pipeline, we're considering several other different pathways to diversify that too.
I mean, yeah, from a business point of view, it's so much better for cash flow. It's so much less risk capital, while gaining experience. So to me, it makes perfect sense. I guess on the lead gen side, you can control your own offer. You got to have salespeople and headache. But when we tried to do e-commerce, the level of pain in the ass of building up a back end was just so much more than building out a back end for lead gen. It was just like so much customer service, shipping, bad products. All of this was just not fun. It's definitely not sexy. Next question here. How do you structure your ad testing when you work with clients with low budgets? That's a good question.
That is a good question. So we run through, before working with any client, the first thing I say to them and I do all client call. We do all client calls video. So I look them as much as possible into the eyes and I go, listen, test phase is going to be 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Or sometimes, depending on the client, 4 to 8 weeks. Right. And I look them straight in and I go, so the first thing we're going to do is obviously, what was this around structured ad testing? So from a budget standpoint, typically what we're trying to do is figure out as quickly as possible, and this is just common knowledge, but we're trying to figure out as much as possible, as quickly as possible, what the winners are from an audience perspective, from a creative perspective, and from an offer perspective, right?
Got it.
So based off of that, then we still treat it the same way. There still has to be something top of funnel. There still has to be something middle of funnel, depending on the type of client. And there still has to be some type of bottom funnel retargeting. And then within there, we'll just have we'll apply the discretion to go, because the budget might be smaller, let's not go too crazy with the amount of ad sets and spread the budget really thin so that we're not seeing any meaningful data. Or sometimes if it can be beefed out a bit more, then we'll put the right amount of ad sets in there and then test the creative within those ad sets. So it almost is a bit of a touch and feel, as opposed to, I wish I could give you a structured answer, Saeed, but it's a bit of a tough one there.
Yeah, I mean, on the testing side, which is really like my favorite thing, and it's not, I don't like testing. Like, I like the excitement of turning shit on in the morning and seeing what winners are, where you look and you go, holy shit, that image worked, et cetera, et cetera. But when I look at testing, I just look at how much can I minimize the amount of data and money I need to spend that will end up eating into the profits later. Like the first year that we had really good profits on solar, I just looked at how much we wasted testing, because Facebook was just not working right for me in the beginning. I didn't really get it. Native would have been a lot easier. We didn't need to spend so much money. And there was so much wasted testing money that I spent, and it made me realize that amount that you spend in the beginning can totally have a huge effect on the profit long term if you do it really in a poor fashion. Let's see here. Another question. Getting a lot of traffic and add to cart and initiate checkout, but no sales. It's a low ticket drop ship product. What objective will optimize for retargeting, and what could be wrong with my website? Also very, very broad. If you're getting a lot of add to carts and initiate checkouts and they're just bailing at the end, I guess I would ask back with a question. So is retargeting working? I don't know why. I never really ran many low cost items. I'm more of a minimum $30, $40 guy, just because if I look at ROAS or margin, I'd rather take a 30% margin on a $100 product than a $10 product. But D, if you're getting a lot of add to carts and initiate checkouts with no sales, what do you think the problem could be?
Man, I'd look at the website first of all and look at that checkout experience, see if something's fucked up over there. So. Yeah. Case in point, right? This happens to so many of our Australian clients. They'll be like, yeah, fuck it. We can just send over to the US and do DHL. So it's 2 days, but keep it. And, we'll have the plugin where they can see their US currency. Keep in mind that, and this works vice versa. If you're a US site trying to send to the Australia, if you're on regular Shopify, by the time you get to the checkout page, it will still convert back to your base currency. So if you're Australian, for example, you'll see Australian pricing. By the time you get to the end, if it's a US site, you'll see US dollars, and all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, fuck's going on? You probably drop out. By the time they have to think and go, wait a second, they're gone. Yes. And then the next part I'd look at also is, if you're getting a lot of traffic, a lot of add to cart and initiate checkout, but no sales, maybe look at what's on your ad versus what you're communicating on the product page to see if there might be some correlation. That'd be the step 2 that I'd probably look at. But from a retargeting standpoint, I think what's if we can know what numbers are working there, that would or what numbers you're experiencing there rather, we could probably be able to help a bit more.
Yeah, like, look, if add to carts are happening and initiate checkouts happening and retargeting isn't working, that's kind of a bad sign in a lot of ways. As far as the website, right? Because like it's happening, they're interested, but they're not making it pop, and they're not coming back again later. Or they are, if you're having retargeting and you're having them come back and you're still getting add to carts and initiate checkouts again, I would definitely go through that flow. There's also these micro testers. You can pay people just a couple bucks to just go through and blow up your page over and over. And lastly, we're going to be launching Roast My Page inside of the Purple Knowledge Lab group. So you can just have people go through and shred your page. I posted a couple landing pages and people have just taken a shit on them.
I saw that.
Listen, seriously, I don't give a fuck. Hashtag no ego. I'm all about that. Look, if your shit sucks, your shit sucks. Like it doesn't matter. Because in the long run, it really has improved us quite a bit. We're like on landing page number 6, I think, 5 or 6 for the Geek Out right now, and it is continuing to get better. We're just whipping them out, really, and the comments have been super helpful. So if you're having a problem with any of that, then go through and let someone go through it. Can you share your top 3 AOV boosters, D?
Totally. So definitely some type of one-click upsell. I don't care if it's Zipify, I don't care if it's bold, something in there, and make sure that it's relevant to, as much as possible, make sure that it's a relevant one-click upsell. Another AOV is just thinking about bundling as well. So, you know, some of our clients, for example, would be if you're doing like, whether it's a skincare or whether it's something where you can put multiple together. And then because of that, you can have a better experience. Like, you know, it's like shampoo and conditioner, right? Sell a shampoo, sell conditioner, sell a bundle. Push that, see whether that works. And then from another, you can kind of call it an AOV booster, although it's not the one transaction. I like to look at LTV more than AOV because then you're thinking long term. So from a retargeting standpoint, how do we win people back? It might be apparel, but you know, for one of our clients, for example, we're getting like 30% of their audience's revenue is repeat sales. So even though it's apparel, right? So it's just thinking about it that way as opposed to just a single transaction, because that's nice, but think about the whole thing.
I think of those repeat customers as like paid, like retargeting that they paid for themselves. Like there's the guy that added it to the cart. There's the guy that initiated the checkout. That's all steps. There's the guy that purchased. Those are just all the steps leading up to the second purchase when you really focus on LTV and pushing it out. I got a little piece of AOV fire that I learned from Muhammad Miguel. Muhammad Ali Miguel. And this is smart as shit. This dude's really strong, dude. If any of you ever get a chance to check out Mo, I think he's
funny as fuck too.
He's so funny. I love this guy. I did a mastermind with him. He is so old school. He understands his copy and like the old school principles of how to market. And he dropped something for me that I thought was awesome. I want to say, let's see, what does he always say? Always listen to Mo or some shit. Always listen to Mo.
Always listen to Mo. That's his thing.
Yeah. So what he does and what he told us about was he will, let's say for golf, for example, as an upsell, he'll offer like an instructional PDF for another $6.95. You know, so he creates
going digital. Nice.
Yeah, how nice is that, right? Like that's the easiest upsell targeted thing ever. Like your golf thing, if you were to add an ebook on how to improve your swing, some people are going to spend an extra 10%, 20%. Last question here, because I know it's late by you, and also I got to get home.
I could do this all fucking day with you, bro.
Listen, I love these Facebook Lives because really it's the way it's supposed to be. It's you and me shooting the shit about what's working. You know, that's the whole concept of what we tried to do with the Geek Out and the brand and everything is just real people with real ad accounts talking about real shit. You know, like just so these Facebook Lives, everyone that's done them has been like, yo, that's great. I could do that all day. And it's like, yeah, me too. I enjoy this also. Okay, so last question. The guy said, sorry, I missed the beginning. Did you say as an agency, it's a better idea than starting an e-commerce store? So we kind of touched on that again, or we touched on it already. I'll tap it one more time on the ass. Look, there's benefits to both, okay? Like really, owning your own e-com store, of course, you have an increased margin. Like let's look at the numbers, right? If you're going to work at scale, 20, 30% margin, like scale, 20 to 30% margin, you're going to risk a shit ton of capital. You're going to be married to a project. You're going to have employees. You're going to be dependent on payment processors, all this other stuff. Or you can take a rip off the top, which means that you will make money as a company, regardless success or failure. So from a business point of view, it's better. I think like if you really do have a hot product and you really know your shit and you feel like, yo, let's run on it. It makes sense maybe as a JV, but just to start an e-com store, I'm not a huge fan of it at least for me at this point. You know, I think agency's better model.
I just hear overhead, right?
Yeah,
if you're starting an e-com store.
Yeah, because you bootstrap startups, like, you know, myself included. Like I've been through so many businesses now that overhead is such a bad word. Overhead is a bad word. Being dependent on unreliable vendors, i.e. PayPal, Stripe, Facebook, it's also irritating as shit for me. Granted, there's bad things on client side as well. You have to deal with clients. You know, it's like, this is not an easy thing. You have to deal with their budgets, etc. But I see what you guys are doing. I see what Common Thread Collective is doing, where Nick works at, and Jason Kreisky. You know, guys that are doing it and are having a great run at it. Obviously, he does both, but are having a great run at it. So
I'll earmark that with my thoughts on for Amir's question. So audit your own skill sets and then go from there. So e-commerce, put it this way, right? Like, fuck, I can sell the pants off of anyone. Like, fuck, you know, I can really do that. If you wanted to start an agency, you don't need any overhead. You can just pick up the phone tomorrow and start making money. I mean, really, if you have the skill set there, you can start just closing people and figuring shit out on the back end if you wanted to. You can't do that with e-commerce. If you want to build an e-commerce store, you gotta spend that money, whether media buy, inventory buy, some type of buy before any money comes in the door. Or you can, if you can audit yourself and you know how to put a Facebook ad together, write some info copy, or just jump on the phone, you can close the 5K client tomorrow. Just saying.
Yeah, no, it's true, man. Dee, thank you for staying up late. Thank you
for having me.
Coming, and talking at Barcelona. I'm so happy to chill as well. Everybody out there, look, Dee's going to be there. Myself, Tim Berg, Nick Shackelford, Brendan Stewart, Josh Olipse, Anthony Sarandrea, Timothy Caldwell, Scott Stewart, Ben Upsall, hammered his last name, Mayor Ben Amin, who I always hammer his name. Dude, I'm sorry, Mayor. You're my boy, too. Ben Aim. Look, there's 11 fucking speakers, okay? 11 speakers. Even on the live stream, you break that down, it's less than $100 per speaker, and every speaker is going to drop at least one documentable, actionable tactic. So I highly recommend that you guys either show up at the event so you can actually meet people, talk to people, or that you buy the live stream. You just go to purpleknowledgelab.com, pick up the live stream, pick up the unlimited replays, and let the learning begin. Dee Deng, thank you so much, sir. I will see you in Barcelona. Keep it strong.
Pleasure, man.